The best interviewers like Taylor Rooks have this one superpower. They can get anyone to open up and share their stories and their feelings at will. And the crazy thing is, people don't actually teach this stuff well in corporate America, even though it's the foundation to building trust with your customers, your colleagues, your partners, and ultimately helps you advance your career. The questions that Taylor asks Boston Celtics star Jason Tatum in this interview are unfortunately just not taught enough. So watch till the end so you can apply all of these tips at work.
What's up? I mean, I would say like it's good to see you, but I just watched you play in Jamal Crawford's program. I need you to set the scene for everybody that wasn't there about how good the energy was in there, but also how hot it was.
What Taylor does is super subtle but very important, especially when leading off a conversation. She asks a warm-up question about a shared experience or setting between the two of them. At work, you could ask a question like, I saw you at the conference this past weekend. What'd you think of it? Or if you're meeting someone new over a virtual call, don't be afraid to mention something that you observe that catches your eye. I noticed that painting on your wall. I love it and have something just like it. What's the story behind that? Whenever you can establish common ground instead of asking generic questions like, how was your weekend? Or where are you from? You can build connection that much more quickly.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously you're already Jason Tatum, but like once you go to the finals, you're Jason Tatum. You know,
But what does that mean?
It means that you accomplished the thing that people expected of you. Obviously, you fell short, but you made it to that point, and it felt like that was such a monkey on your back, too.
Taylor does a great job at making the interview feel like a two-way conversation, getting Jason to open up even more. The trick behind that is she shares her interpretation of Jason's situation. If you get the interpretation right, they're more likely to build on your point and open up even more as a result. If you get it wrong, they're gonna clarify you.
Yeah, but like when you say you're Jason Tatum, like me and my mom joke about it all the time. It's hard for me to view myself how other people view me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm that same kid that lived with my mom and back in St. Louis, and like, you know, to her, I'm her baby, and to Deuce, I'm just daddy. When you reference it like that, it's still like, I'm not used to that.
But either way, you're going to get an answer that's thoughtful. What you don't want to do is to interpret their situation and then quickly move on to a completely different topic without confirming that you've got it right. Doing so is very dismissive of their perspective. You want to make the exchange feel just like a conversation, because when you're asked question after question, like an interview, you're much more likely to be guarded and not share as much.
You know, those 3-4 days afterward, I was miserable. I really, really was.
So when you say you're miserable, what does that mean? How did that like manifest in your day-to-day?
To feel like I ran out, that I didn't have anything left to give. And we were so close. Didn't have an appetite. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to go anywhere. You know, I just was like in my house for like 3-4 days straight. It was the worst. It was the worst feeling.
The third thing Taylor does here is she probes into Jason's feelings. What's the why behind the feeling? How does that feeling manifest? What are examples of that feeling?
What percentage of being a parent is being scared?
I don't know the percent, but it's high.
It's high. Yeah.
It is high. He hasn't even went to school yet. We took a couple visits to some like preschools to talk and see the schools and facilities. And, you know, in my mind, it's preschool. How much can they learn? You know what I'm saying? They're going to take naps and play and be with other kids.
Yeah.
But the only question I ever have is like, if we decide to send him here, I need to know that it's okay that, you know, if I'm coming from practice or if we have a day off, if I just want to come up here and sit in the classroom and watch him all day, like that has to be okay. I'm very mild-mannered and laid back, but like I know people say like they don't play about their kids. I don't play about my son.
You might think that at work, people are less likely to want to divulge their emotions, but if they're the ones bringing up that emotion, it's totally fair game to ask, can you explain more? What do you mean by that? I'd love to know. It comes from a place of curiosity, and people appreciate it when you're curious. If they're not willing to share, they'll tell you, but they're not going to look down on you as a result of that.
So when I say 2022 NBA Finals, what image pops in your head?
You know, us walking off the court at home and seeing them celebrate on our floor.
When I see like you and Deuce, I really do think about how close you and your mom are. Like that's your best friend. She is like, I feel like you almost can't explain you without explaining Miss Brandy. She's the best. What is your first memory of your mom?
What you'll notice is that Taylor asks very descriptive and visceral questions. What image do you think of when I say this? What's the first memory that comes to your mind? This is important because you're getting your conversation partner to relive those experiences. They'll reenact dialogue, they'll share their internal thoughts and emotions in that moment, and they'll likely answer in ways that they didn't even expect, all because you brought them back to that moment.
My first memory of
Yeah.
There's so many. I don't know. I slept in the bed with my mom till I was like 13. Anytime her friends would come over and they would be playing spades at the table, like I would fall asleep on her lap because I like had separation anxiety. Like I never wanted to be away from my mom. So just, everything. Like we used to watch Love Jones together when I was a kid. That was my favorite movie. And Players Club. I probably shouldn't have been watching that at 5, but I was.
And as they divulge this, they'll gradually feel closer to you.
But as All-Star break approached, I got nervous to get it looked at because I knew how much pain I was in. Like I couldn't really push my wrist back. I couldn't, like at home, I couldn't hold a plate or a cup. But I was nervous to go get it checked out because I never want somebody to tell me I can't play. I've tried to play every game of every season that I've can. Right before the playoffs, during the play-in game, we had 6 or 7 days off. And Nick was like, yo, we got to get it looked at. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But, like, it's the playoffs, so I don't care what they say. Like, I'm playing.
Yeah.
Come to find out, this was 8 weeks later that it showed that I had a non-displaced fracture in my wrist. And it was small, but it was still
But still, yeah.
like a non-displaced chip.
One of the best ways you can listen is to do so actively but silently. Sometimes people tend to say things like, and that makes people feel like they're under a little bit of pressure to get to the point because you're very eager to hear what the punchline is. But the reality is, if you can just be quiet and let them express things as they want to, while showing that you're clearly listening by giving them great eye contact, by nodding your head, by even altering your tone whenever you feel surprised. That will make your conversation partner feel so much more heard and appreciated. Now, it can be really hard to memorize all these communication skills to build more connection at work. So subscribe to my newsletter at PrestonChin.co, where you'll get weekly communication tips to elevate your impact at work. If you like this video, check out this breakdown I did of how you can answer questions like a pro, just like Satya Nadella.